Hi, it's time for good energy, and I'm Dr. Julian. Welcome to Bodyful Day 186, where we're talking about plantar fasciitis in the senses, and today we're talking about the vestibular sense. Remember that the vestibular sense is where you are in space, and this is day 5 of talking about plantar fasciitis and the senses. All right, let's start with the basics. Let's take a deep breath in and release. For those of you who've been with us, we're going to expand in the belly, expand in the chest, expand in the sinuses, and tuck that tail. Deep breath in. And release. And now we're going to think about any garbage going on today emotionally or in interactions or work-wise. Think about those events, hold those memories in your head, and you're going to breathe relaxation into your body as you think about that event. So instead of tensing up, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to relax. Take a deep breath in. And release. All right. So welcome to day 5 of plantar fasciitis. All of the other previous days have kind of led you to the understanding that plantar fasciitis is a disorder, is a stress disorder. There we go. A disease, a distressed order, is a disorder or physiological function of stress. So remember that the healing equation is energy to heal equals good energy and minus stressors. And when you have too many stressors, your adrenals kick in. When your adrenals kick in, they do their job of making cortisol and other things, and they suck up all of your vitamin C, which is good energy in. You need vitamin C to make connective tissue. And connective tissue without vitamin C is crappy connective tissue that can become inflamed, and when you get out of bed and you step on the ground in the morning, you can get that ow, ow, ow thing. So we've been talking about the other signs and symptoms that go with adrenal fatigue, in addition to plantar fasciitis, as we've gone through the various senses. Today we're going to talk about the vestibular sense, because the vestibular sense is where you are in space. But as you might expect as we've been going through this, I'm going to hijack vestibular and we're going to talk about something slightly different. So where you are in space, if you remember about the vestibular sense, where you are in space has a lot to do with your ankles. See, I'm wearing trousers today, so I can do this. Your ankles, your hips, and your neck. And these are places that integrate, so your kinesthetic knowledge from those locations are integrated in with your sensory semicircular canals that create this vestibular sense. Where you are in space is relative to the motion in your semicircular canals and the movement or the location of your joints, particularly the ankles, pelvis, and neck in space. So when we think about plantar fasciitis is, of course, the bottom of the feet. So we've got problems with the bottom of our feet, particularly our heels. And that can arise because you might have some tightness in the calf or in the hamstring, which means that you are necessarily, well, not necessarily, means that you might likely have issues with alignment in your ankle and alignment in your pelvis. But, of course, since all of that comes down through the head and neck, then anything even up here can cause stuff all the way down here. So when we talk about plantar fasciitis, we talk about adrenal fatigue, we also really have to talk about the structure and alignment of the body. If the ankles are off, then that heel is going to be off. If your hips are off and your hamstrings are tight, the plantar fascia comes down. Let's imagine that this is my calf going into my heel and my foot. The plantar fascia comes down from the hamstrings. Well, the plantar fascia is attached to the Achilles tendon, but the plantar fascia is part of a long fascia that comes down from the back of the leg down into the foot. And if for some reason the hamstrings are off, then what you're going to have is a lot of pulling on the bottom of the foot. So you want to make sure that your ankles are aligned and that your pelvis is aligned. You might be wondering, well, then you could line everything up and you might get rid of plantar fasciitis. That is true if it were truly just an alignment disorder. But if you've been paying attention through all of these, you know that I don't think it's an alignment disorder. I think it is a disorder of stress. But to that end, if your ankles are out and your pelvis is out and your neck is out, and they are contributing to your sense of where you are in space and your balance, then that will be enhanced with plantar fasciitis, because if you've got stress here, then you're going to have issues. You most likely will have issues in that ankle, pelvis, and neck. So aligning yourself from your spine perspective will help plantar fasciitis, because it will reduce the amount of stress you're under. You're no longer under that kinesthetic alignment stress. And getting back to vestibular, because of that, you're no longer getting faulty vestibular signals, which are then telling you where you should be in space. So fixing alignment will help reduce the effect of plantar fasciitis. It's not going to get rid of it though, because of course that is a stressor. You have to get rid of the stress, not just the physical alignment stress, not just the vestibular stress because you're walking around and running into walls because you're not quite even. You've got to get rid of the actual cause of the stress. So these are all related, but the idea is that vestibular, your sense of balance, your sense of where you are in space, is going to be impacted by plantar fasciitis, because your plantar fascia is tied to this tendon, this fascia that goes from your foot all the way up to your hips. And you've got 2 points that are important about vestibular sense, your ankle and your pelvis. Of course, I'm using my arm and my wrist and my shoulder to indicate ankle and pelvis. But those two are going to be stressed. And so getting an adjustment, finding a massage therapist who can release trigger, or an occupational therapist or a physical therapist that can release trigger points in that hamstring, in that fascia, is going to be important. Especially the fascia up on the leg and the hamstring is going to be important for your sense of balance, and it is also going to be important for your sense for your plantar fasciitis. Now, this sounds a little weird that tendons further up can actually affect your feet, but they can, and it's kind of awesome that any point of pressure, especially a point of pressure related to the sense of balance, can sway you one way or another. I love, yes, Jim, fascia is fascinating. I love working with patients doing step-up tests where they just step up on a step and watching how their balance shifts depending upon holding just ligaments around the spine, which would just be what a massage therapist could do, what a physical therapist could do. And you can watch the system kind of realign itself, and they're able to step up without this wobbliness. In fact, all my patients today, I actually had them do the step-up test because I was trying to fix balance, which would also impact plantar fasciitis or vice versa. So while not directly related, if you can get your balance back by releasing tightness in the hamstring, the calves, or behind the neck, that the fascia will release, and that will actually release the tightness down into the bottom of that foot. But you also have to remember that sometimes fascia gets tight for a different reason. So why does fascia get tight? From the healing equation, fascia gets tight because energy to heal equals good energy and minus stressors, and your stressors are just too high. All right. I hope this has been helpful. We have 2 other senses left to go. We have the sense of, I think it's the sense of smell, I think. Nope, it's not. it's a sense of hearing, I think. We have hearing on Saturday, and we of course have kinesthetic on Sunday. I saved the easiest one for last because the kinesthetic sense is really easy to talk about in terms of plantar fasciitis, because it really does have to do with where your joints are in space. All right, let's finish this off. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in and release. All right, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.